From the advertising media capital of the world, New Milford, Connecticut, wherever that is. This is Mostly Automotive Marketing with Matt Wilson, a bi-weekly-ish podcast about all things automotive marketing. Now, here's your host, Matt Wilson.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Mostly Automotive Marketing with Matt Wilson, presented by Silverback Advertising, silverbackadvertising.com. You see my, oh, you can't see it because of the little thing here. See the swag? For those of you watching, right there, silverbackadvertising.com. So a couple weeks ago, I've been having internet issues at my house, right? Which we all have been having because we got kids at home and we've got, everybody, on the internet and watching TV and doing school and the whole neighborhood is online. And so I've had internet issues. So I go on my cable company's website because I don't want to call and pick up the phone. I want to chat with somebody and take care of it. So I hop on chat for the cable company and I start asking questions, and they want me to, go downstairs and reset my modem and the router and da-da-da-da. You go through the whole thing, rigmarole that you've done a million times, and I do it. And, hey, great, still doesn't work. I'm not getting this. I'm not getting that. And, they're going back and forth. And then it comes to a point where they're like, oh, well, we can't answer that question. Can you call us? And I'm like, no, I can't call you. If I wanted to call you, I would have called you. Excuse me, I've been talking all day. No, I can't call you. If I wanted to call you, I picked up the phone and called you. I want to chat. But I took it to the max. I couldn't get my answer, right? And I was like, well, that defeats the purpose of the chat. I just wasted, they should have just told me in the beginning to call, and I would have gotten a human on the phone and taken care of the whole thing, right? And that has happened to all of us before, I'm sure. And it's happened to me a bunch of times. That's just the latest example. And so I'm like, let's talk about this and our industry. And luckily, I know exactly the guy to talk to because we've all heard of Gubagoo, right? Everyone knows who that is. They're probably the most popular chat provider, I guess, for lack of a better term, in automotive. And everyone has heard of them. And so let's get on to the head of marketing for Gubagoo. His name is Drew Delaware, and he is on the podcast. And there he is. Hey, Drew, how you doing?
Hey, Matt. Great to join you. Thanks. I'm a big fan of Mostly Automotive Marketing. I appreciate everything that you're bringing to our space. So thanks for all you do. Great to be here.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you coming on. I think let's get to the good stuff. Most importantly, I've been a customer in the past on my tier 3 level, and now I'm in an agency, and all my dealers have Gubagoo. First and foremost, are we pronouncing it right? Because everybody wants to know how to pronounce. Is it Gubagoo? Is it Gubagoo? Is it this? Clear it up for us once and for all.
We are Gubagoo.
So I said it wrong.
Guba everything in our world. We have a Guba family, Guba gear, Guba squads. So yes, it's Gubagoo.
Gubagoo
is the correct pronunciation.
So it's although like scuba.
We're very accepting of alternative. Tomato. There's a tomato salad it tastes just the same.
Gubagoo. I think I've been correcting people and saying it's Gubagoo for a couple of years now. So you're going to have to forgive me for the misbranding of the correct pronunciation. So it's like scuba, Guba.
Yeah,
Gubagoo.
There you go. There you go.
Man.
Bring in the goo.
I feel like you guys are spelling it wrong if it's Gubagoo.
There's a fun story behind the name, actually, because it was actually Brad Teitel, our CEO, was watching The Sopranos and thought that Tony said pass the Gubagoo, and thought, oh, that's interesting. Looked it up, found it on GoDaddy, registered the domain name. Thought, oh, that would be an interesting company name. Turns out that wasn't in the script at all.
Right.
So we had to develop a different origin story. But interestingly enough, Guba, G-U-B-A, has a sort of another meaning, which is good, ugly, bad, and awesome, which you can think of as your traffic. And, our technology helps you sort of sort through all of that and find the good stuff to communicate with.
Do you guys call your employees like Goobaers or Goobers?
Goobas.
Like Gooba.
Yeah, we're Goobas. And we say, welcome to the goo.
I like it.
When a new team member joins.
I like it. Well, now that we got to the bottom of that, thank you, once again for coming on. I appreciate it. How do you pronounce it? It was my first question. So we've covered that already. Let's talk about the world of chat in terms of, this is a discussion that we have a lot, and we'll start here. A chat is a lead, right? Someone starts to conversate with you on your website by asking you a question. Is that the same as someone walking in the front door of the dealership and saying, hey, can you tell me about that car I just saw out there on the front line?
Well, I don't know if we would say it's the same, because there's a couple differences. When someone starts a chat on a website, the customer has a sense of anonymity, and they like that. You know, sometimes customers just want to ask questions without you knowing their identity, and and giving up their email, because they're not sure that they want to enter into a full conversation with you yet. But what's really interesting, Matt, is you mentioned that chats are leads, and one of the fascinating things about getting people into a conversation versus a form. So a form fill is a lead, right?
Right.
And what happens with a form fill is the information gets sent into CRM, and there's a back and forth, and you try to hunt people down, and you spend time in your BDC trying to find these people. Maybe they're ghosting you. That's lead and lead follow-up. But with a conversation, you can accelerate through the funnel. So maybe they're a lead, but through the conversation, perhaps they become a prospect or an opportunity. And one thing I find really fascinating in our industry is we talk about leads. Leads are the holy grail. We measure everything by leads, but we completely ignore the other two important entry points into or points in the funnel, midpoints in the funnel, which is have they progressed from a lead to a prospect, and we know that they're expressing strong interest, or have they even come to the point where they're an opportunity, where we're in full discussion about the potential purchase of a vehicle, the interest is really strong. That's different. And so when we talk about high quality leads, low quality leads, maybe we're talking about different points in the funnel that people are in when they initiate a conversation. So chat allows you to accelerate people through that in a much more efficient manner than if they were to submit a form lead, and hopefully you get back to them, and that back and forth can drag on for days.
I think we need an official industry definition and layout of those terms. We need to say, okay, because we're all talking different languages. A lead is this, and then BDC. Oh, it's a good lead. It's a bad lead. Okay, well, a lead, I think you and I talked about this in a previous conversation. A lead, a prospect, an opportunity. These are all different things. Let's come up with an industry agreed upon, standardized definitions of these things, so we can all call them the same thing, instead of having all these conversations about, oh, we're putting these leads into your CRM. Well, that's not really a lead. That's a buying indicator, or that's a prospect, or a person who has is in a strong equity position that some equity tool tells you is not the same as somebody who goes on your website and says, I want to come test drive this car on Saturday. So why do we treat those things the same?
I love that, Matt, and I would love to see our industry progress.
Let's do it. Let's you and me do it, man. We'll be the pioneers. Let's Lewis and Clark it.
Great. I'm in. Because the whole obsession with leads on both the dealer side and the vendor side. Vendors are just as guilty about this. We try to prove our value through how many leads we're delivering. That's that's craziness.
Yeah. 100%. 100%. Okay, so I would say, and I don't have any statistics to back this up, but I would say that Gubagoo, I say it right, is the leader in website chats for the automotive industry, right? Everyone's heard of Gubagoo. I don't know that there's a dealer who's never heard of it. How many chats a day is Gubagoo initiating or being involved in?
I'm trying to do math in my head, because the number is about 1 million a month.
Oh, okay. Hold on. I can do that. How many zeros is in a million? One, that's 100,000. That's a million. Divided by 30, say on average. 33,000 a day? Does that make sense?
Yep,
33,000
that sounds right.
990,000.
It's crazy how many chats we cover in a like over 1 million chats a month. And you and I were talking about this a little bit, Matt, beforehand, because we realized what a treasure trove of industry data that is, and that that there's some gems of information there. So we put our data science team on that and asked them the question, in 2020, what changed about the way people were talking, how customers were talking to dealerships and how dealerships are talking to customers. And there were some really obvious things like, COVID-19, coronavirus, pandemic. These were words that we had never seen before, completely new. Closing farewells changed. So all of a sudden, everybody's saying, stay safe, stay healthy, stay well, and have a wonderful day, have a wonderful night. Completely disappeared from chats. Nobody was
nothing
saying
was
that.
Everybody,
everybody was wanting people to stay safe and healthy instead. Are you open? Just questions around whether the dealership is operating went up 12x. There was a really interesting trend around at-home services. So inquiries about at-home test drives increased 11.6x. At-home delivery inquiries increased 12.5x. So huge spikes in change of model. And it's interesting, as the economy opened back up after the first wave, we actually saw that trend continue.
So with 1 million chats a month, at what point did you guys say, holy cow, like this, the amount of data that, because we all look at Google and Facebook and all these industry, all these social sites is collecting all this data because everyone's on them. Well, 1 million chats a month is a tremendous amount of data. So at what point did Gubagoo realize that, okay, well, we can use this data to help predict, what customers are going to be asking, how we can serve customers, and how we can serve dealers?
Well, we've used the data in various ways to help understand best practices, what we can provide to dealers as far as when dealers are jumping in to rescue their chats, how they can have better conversations, how we're teaching our own chat specialists. Our chat specialists go through a crazy 5-week program. Only about half survive before they're on live answering dealers' chats. We're really wanting to make sure they're using the most engaging language and answering questions as best they can. So
it's like Gubagoo boot camp.
Oh yeah, Gubagoo University, more like it.
Gubaversity, if you will.
Yeah, get your GBA. So lots of data, and it struck us, wouldn't this be interesting to dive into? And some of the things we found, Matt, I've got to tell you that, because this I thought was so interesting. Black Friday, 77% drop of mentions year over year. Happy Thanksgiving, down 94%. People didn't wish each other a happy Thanksgiving in 2020. Isn't that sad?
Yeah, really.
Right?
We could use the positivity.
We said stay healthy instead.
Good luck making it through this weekend. It's horrible. Yeah, right.
Right.
Interesting.
Right.
Very interesting.
Yeah. But other things that, I as a marketer, I puzzle over, like gift cards. Mention of gift cards dropped 78% last year. Right?
Wow.
What was going on there? What's that about? I don't have any answers for you, but it's a really interesting thing to ruminate on and say, what was it about 2020 that made us think that gift cards were just not the thing?
Yeah, I like to hear that stuff and then think like, okay, well, what happened that is the thing. And it's like, okay, well, I would think there's no, people aren't gathering together for holidays and that kind of thing. And what's easier to send to somebody than a gift card? You're not going to be schlepping presents over to someone's house for Christmas as much, this past year as in the past. So I would have guessed the opposite, that people were talking about it more.
And maybe dealers weren't needing to incentivize people into the dealership. It was a banner year for many dealers through the thick and thin. Talk about the fighting spirit of our dealers, our dealer community. Go get them. What a great year in the end. I don't think any of us want to live through that again.
No, definitely not.
But we're happy with the results, and so perhaps that affected what we needed to do as far as promotions. Fewer incentives, and the OEMs were stepping up with aggressive financing offers, and perhaps that was enough.
Who needs a free 42-inch TV when you're getting 0% for 90 days or whatever it is?
Or 84 months.
84 months, yeah, right.
13x.
Yeah, that's insane.
In conversations.
You mentioned before dealers jumping in, right? And I'm just going to relay a story from when we were, I don't know what year it was, maybe like 2014. And we didn't have chat at a Nissan store that I was at. And we were looking at our options. And our discussion internally was like, all right, well, we want to handle as many of these chats as we can when we're open. However, the propensity for a BDC to all be at lunch at the same time was very high. Or, two of the three are on the phone and the other one is down on the showroom floor. Or, okay, we're going to have our people answer them, but we're like not the best at grammar or at, conversating quickly through chat. And it became apparent that we needed help. So we were searching for a hybrid model. We wanted to have something where we had the option to answer, but if not, it could be backed up. And I can't remember who we used, and we used somebody, and eventually it didn't work out. And we ended up switching to Gubagoo. But how are dealers approaching Gubagoo with that philosophy, or do dealers want just handle it for me and I don't want to deal with it? Or is there a benefit to having a dealer handle as much of it themselves as they can?
There's certainly a mix, Matt. We are starting to change our approach. And instead of saying we're a managed chat company that you can jump in to your own conversations with, we're now saying, hey, manage your conversations and we're here to back you up. It's a slight shift, but the reason we're doing it is, we can have the best trained chat specialists in the industry, and we certainly make every effort to do so. And when someone at the dealership engages with the customer and jumps in to that chat, you're building trust, you're building a relationship, and you're building the relationship with the person that's ultimately going to deliver the keys to that vehicle. So the stat that we have now is insane. 77% increase in sale, a conversion all the way through to a sale, if the dealer jumps into an initial chat. That's huge.
Yeah.
If there was something in the dealership that could increase the conversion to a sale by 77%, we'd be doing that already, right?
For sure.
That's a crazy number, and yet that's the number. We've banged that number through a couple times, and dealer personnel are able to engage customers in the sales process, and the sales process that's unique to that store, unique to that geographical area, unique to that vehicle, in a way that we're going to handle it as best as we can and answer the questions as best we can. But there's nothing like your team handling the chat, and so we encourage. We're pounding out resources right now to help our dealers put together the strategy, the process, the templates, and so forth to handle their chats.
I think that's probably a roadblock in certain situations is, the dealership's internal process, and, who's going to do that? What's the what's the integration look like on, on a dashboard or on a portal that they're using? balancing the hours that the dealer is open versus the dealer is not open, and do they have the right person to answer them? And that's a whole like other area than just we're providing the software and our people. Now you're talking about like internal process and training. That's a huge part of it, isn't it? I mean, that's a huge issue if that can't be done on the dealer level. Does Gubagoo help with that?
Yes, we're really focused right now on providing as many resources as we possibly can on that front, and not just for chat, but even more so for the digital retailing side. Our virtual retailing product, has been doing very well in the market, and a lot of dealers scrambled onto the product during wave one of the pandemic. In particular, it was all hands on deck to get people onboarded. But the biggest difference, Matt, between success and what I call shelfware, right, is the process in the dealership and the strategy behind it. I wrote a fun little piece called "Who Wins the Fight? The Talented Sales Manager or the Mediocre Strategist?" And spoiler alert, the mediocre strategist wins hands down, because we need to focus some time on strategic thought and process and how we're going to roll things out. I tell our sales team, when dealerships are buying digital retailing tools like our virtual retailing tool, they're not buying software, they're buying change. Change in the dealership. And if the dealership isn't thinking from that perspective and is just saying, hey, slap the tool on the website and let's hope the leads will roll in, right? They're missing the opportunities that come from the ability to engage and really integrate that into their sales process. So our most successful dealerships on virtual retailing are the ones who've really, thought through, okay, what does this really look like, and how are we going to engage with customers all the way through? And when they do, the results just sing.
The one thing that seems simple to me that makes sense is that I sat through the Gubagoo virtual retailing demo on behalf of one of my clients at the agency. And one of the things that I liked, and I see a flaw in other areas, is if you're in the middle of your, purchase, or you're going through the steps, whatever you're doing as a customer, and you have a question and you click on the chat, and the chat doesn't know what you're talking about because it intuitively doesn't know what you're doing on the website, that makes zero sense.
Yeah, not on our watch.
Zero sense whatsoever. Oh, I have a question. Let me just ask this little thing that says, ask me a question. And what are you looking at? What do you mean, what am I looking at? You're supposed to know. That's a huge disadvantage from a digital retailing standpoint. And then the other way around too. Can I help you with anything? I see you're stuck on this spot. Do you have any questions about the trade-in information? Like, that's a huge advantage to some of the other digital retailing platforms that are out there.
Yeah, because ultimately we're talking about humans, right? There's people on both sides, and people buy because of people, and people confidence in buying increases when there's people to support us and engage with us and encourage us. So the successful dealers are the ones who are saying, hey, I see you're spending a lot of time playing with your payments. Can I help you with that? Is there are you trying to get to a specific number? Hey, I've got this manager's offer that I can throw in here. Does that get you to the number you're looking for? Right. And it creates that strong feeling of engagement and trust that drives people through to a sale.
What about so a group I used to be at, one of our stores was super active. We always had we were very involved in local charity, and we always had events going on with the, pet adoption people on weekends. And we did the, fingerprinting, hair sample, ID your kids events. We had the gourmet hot dog guy down there on Saturdays, and we were giving away tickets to stuff. Okay, so a customer hears that on the radio, and they go to your website and they want to know what time are the hot dogs going to be there. And they go to your chat thing and says, hey, what time are the hot dogs going to be there on Saturday?
That's a test of your chat provider.
That is a test of your chat provider.
And if there and you know what? It's even more so a test of how the dealership views the chat provider. So
Really?
I encourage people. When I was at Performance Auto Group, before I moved over to Gubagoo, I was head of marketing for a 29-store group, one of the largest groups in Canada. And I would encourage our teams to think of the chat team at Gubagoo as your employees. If you're telling your receptionist that this is going on, if you're telling your sales team that this is going on, you need to remember to tell the other people who are representing you, which is the chat company, that this is going on. So if you don't tell the chat team, they don't know that hot dogs are going on the grill or that you're doing this charity event. So that communication is really important. And when you do it, it's amazing, right? Because then everybody's singing from the same songbook.
Yeah. I know the Gubagoo is a huge company, but the guy, I can't remember his name, but the guy who was like my performance manager at my group for Gubagoo, I must have driven him nuts because we would send him like, we got this thing going on, and you know, it's so-and-so's 20-year anniversary of the dealership, and we're having a party for him on Wednesday, and his most loyal customers are coming down, and here, you know, here's the info for that if someone asks him. And I was convinced, I reached out to my rep more than any other dealer because we had that process in place. Okay, we have this going on. Okay, well, we want to make sure it's on the website. We want to make sure it's on social. We want to make sure that the receptionist knows. We want to make sure that it's included on our on-hold message. We want to make sure the chat people know. We want to make sure the service department was in the building next door. We want to make sure they know in that building what we're doing over here in this building. But a lot of dealers either don't have the know-how or the infrastructure in place to have that type of process in place. Like Google's not going to know if you don't tell them.
Yeah, bring it on. Bring it on. Because that helps us do a better job too. And I mean, our chat specialists don't want to be floundering, you know, jumping over to your website. You know, do they have something on the website, right? You know, we want to be in the loop.
Checking it out.
Well, that's partnership. And so if you treat a company like Gubagoo as your partner, then think about keeping your partners in the communication loop.
Now, what about answering Facebook messages and Google messages for dealers as well? Is that a similar strategy to how you answer them on the website, or is there a bit of a difference when they're on those platforms?
Channels are a little bit different, and we just introduced WhatsApp as well. Apple Business Chat is Apple Business Chat. This is really interesting. Is our top converting channel.
I didn't even know that. I didn't even know Apple Business Chat was a thing.
It's a thing.
Who knew? From
Apple Maps, from Siri search, there's several different entry points to Apple Business Chat, and it is our best converting channel. So yes, you know, certainly the channel can dictate how a chat might be responded to, but usually that's how they're driven to the chat more so than the channel itself. So on Facebook, for example, a lot of the chats are from Facebook Marketplace or from Facebook ads that are driving to a chat instead of to a landing page. Right. And our technology is set up so that the ad is sent into the chat transcript, so whoever's handling it knows, oh, okay, you know, hi, you're interested in the $20 gas card. I thought we weren't doing gift cards. We better come up with a different promotion. But you were interested in the $20 gift card for a test drive. I'm happy to put that aside for you. It's so rewarding when that first interaction is connected to the ad you just clicked on. Right.
You know what's funny is I didn't know that was, you know, I'm sure assuming that's part of like the API or whatever, the Gubagoo integration with Facebook. I didn't know that was a Gubagoo thing. I have a dealer who we're setting up their ad type, or they're answering their Facebook messages on their own. And the first thing they said was, well, I don't know what car they're looking at. It doesn't populate that into the chat when they click message. I was like, it doesn't? And they were like, no. I'm like, let me take a look and figure that out. And so I started looking into it, talking to the Facebook person at my agency and looking into it. And we, contacted, found out not possible. And I said, it's not possible. Gubagoo must have some kind of API or whatever their plugin is with Facebook. It's way more efficient than saying, oh, sure, what car were you just looking at again? You're asking a question that the customer assumes you should already have the answer to.
That's a horrible customer experience, right? Yeah, we want continuity. If I can get geeky with you, Matt,
yeah, do it.
I mean, I love to put my geek hat on. We've got a technology called Live Plays. There's varying versions of it throughout the market, but it's essentially conversational sequences or customized, personalized sequences based on an action that the customer has taken. So this is actually allowing the elimination in some cases of landing pages. I mean, landing pages are such a bear for marketers. Yeah. How many landing pages do you really need? But you're supposed to have a unique one for every single promo you're running. Well, with conversational marketing, you can land on a more generic page, but have the conversation be the piece that will speak to, what they just clicked on. Hey, thanks for coming in on our Civic offer. We're running our promotions till Saturday. Would you like to book a VIP appointment? And when you engage that way in a conversational way, it actually has a higher conversion rate than just going to a landing page and having a call to action button. So that runs off of UTM codes. You can trigger that just from a UTM code or any other URL parameter. And boom, you've got a custom greeter with whatever you want it to say, make it friendly, connect it to the marketing message. And now you've got that continuity that everybody's trying to get without, in some cases, having to build a really big landing page.
Yeah. I remember that too. It's like, oh, here's an event going on. We need a landing page. And then we got to create our campaign. And it's got to point to the landing page. And then we got to make sure it's optimized. And then is it in the navigation? And did we take it down after the thing happened? And it's like, this whole thing planned around this one event or, one sale or whatever you have going on. And it's labor intensive. And then you have your agency do it. And maybe you're paying them to do it. And, but be able to kind of package that up and deliver it in a conversational way makes a whole lot of sense.
Yeah, there's a time and a place for a landing page. Don't get me wrong. You need landing pages for your big events and so
SEO
forth.
And all that
but
stuff.
There's a lot of those cases where it's just like a landing page is just hitting a nail with a sledgehammer. So, let's find a more appropriately sized tool that is really nimble. So using things like live plays and triggering off of UTM codes and other parameters is a great way to do it.
I heard through the grapevine, through the industry street talk, water cooler talk, that you used to be a competitive swimmer. Is that true?
That is true. Yes.
So my managing partner, the managing partner at the agency that I work for, was a college swimmer, and he said that he had heard that somewhere. And so let's talk about it. Like, where did you swim? How? When? Do you know how to keep your head above water? Like, tell me about it a little bit.
Well, the funniest part is I learned how not to swim following. So I was ranked across 3 different events in the top 5 in the country. My top one being 200 backstroke, and I also was 400 IM and 200 fly. So I was a masochist, basically. For anyone who knows swimming, that's most people are gagging right now if they know swimming. I did all the stuff that nobody else wanted to do, but I loved it. I loved just the sheer willpower that it took to get through some of those races, and then I learned how not to swim. Because I jumped over to water polo and I fell in love with water polo, played competitive water polo for 8 years. And I went back 2 or 3 years later just for fun to a swim meet. And a friend of mine looked at me after a race and he said, you swim like a water polo player. It's like, come on, dude, what are you thinking?
Yeah, right.
Oh, yeah. So, that ruined my swimming, but I had a lot of fun playing water polo and playing in some really fun pools across in Europe and Australia and so forth. So a lot of fun through those days, and I'm paying for it now. Let me tell you.
You're the only person I've ever talked to who's was a water polo player. So going to Australia to play water polo, that's great. Like that's awesome. That's a long flight to play water polo.
Yeah, it was a long flight. I would always turn that into a bigger trip, of course. And
sure.
Travel has long been one of my hobbies. I don't spend a lot of money on a lot of things. I've got a pretty simple lifestyle, all told. But travel is where it's always about the next trip. So this pandemic, that's been my personal hell about the pandemic is like,
wow.
How am I going to plan my trip to Uganda or wherever? Easter Island is actually my next on my bucket list. So,
do you Goobas work at a corporate? Like, are you guys is Gubagoo remote? Do you guys have different offices set up? Like, do you have the luxury of going somewhere, but if you need to, do a little work when you're there, is that easy to do?
Yeah, in fact, right before the pandemic hit, I worked from Hawaii for 3 weeks.
Oh, that's terrible.
Lived in Hawaii for 5 years and went back for visiting work from there. What was terrible was getting up at 4:45 in the morning to start my day. I'm not a morning person, so that was I was a little grumpy. But then I remembered, wait, I'm in Hawaii.
You're right. How can I be a little grumpy? Yeah, right.
So
that's good. At least there's the luxury to be, that's good culture to be able to, be where you got to be and have that flexibility to do that.
We were a remote organization on the professional services side before the pandemic hit. So already had that culture in place. Our chat team and some of our sales team, some of our client success team were all in our Boca Raton and Daytona offices. Mm-hmm. So that was a shift for them. And now we've been expanding remote for some of those teams as well, as we've seen that it can work in those departments as well. So a really strong remote culture, all told, at Gubagoo.
Yeah, I feel like, like with the agency I'm at, we were, a lot of us were remote prior to the pandemic, but, the core group of like account services people and the digital team were not, they worked at offices. So for them, it's been a bit of an adjustment. For some of us who are not at corporate, it's been like, besides not visiting clients, it's been business as usual in terms of working from home. But I will tell you, I think that, like from a productivity standpoint, from a company that had already embraced like a work from home atmosphere, I think it was an easier transition for our people who were not work from homers to now work from home. Already something our company was accepting of. We already had processes and software and, tools in place to all be working remotely, and the transition was easier. And we had, it comes from the top. It comes from management. You can't have that like micromanager. I'm going to be on you and let me check and see where you are at 8:45 in the morning. Like, that's not the kind of person that was able to ease into this transition. So it's important that it comes from the top and from the leadership team, I think. And it sounds like that was kind of a natural thing for you guys. I know it was for Silverback for sure.
Absolutely. Ryan Austin, our COO, he actually did a video on our remote culture early on in the pandemic to help other companies, dealerships sort of figure out how, like, some of the best practices that we had learned Documentation, for example, has a bigger value in a remote organization.
Mm-hmm.
So we're really big on we document everything, in our documentation system.
Yeah.
So there's certain things that may not be obvious when you're scrambling, you're sending people equipment and scrambling to accommodate everybody. But these were some of the things that Ryan shared early on.
So funny. I'm just thinking back to like 10 years ago in radio, and I had a boss, and you'd be like, "Oh, I got whatever this going on. Can I just work from home tomorrow?" And that had the stigma of all right, I have a computer at home. All these processes in radio were becoming cloud-based. So you could schedule music, from home. You didn't have to be at the radio station to work on the music log for the next day. I'm going to work from home. No, you're not working from home, because it had this if he's working from home, he's not doing anything, stigma to it. And I always want to go back to those managers now and be like, hey, remember 10 years ago when you were like, that's not a thing. You're not doing anything. You're wasting time. When it's like the way of the world now, I always want to talk to those people about how they adapted to it. And if there's certain industries that maybe adapted slower than other industries, digital industries, agencies, technology people, we're like, okay, cool. But maybe some older industries, radio, maybe even automotive, I don't know, on the dealership level, are slower to adapt those type of forward thinking things.
Well, isn't trust a wonderful thing when it's in place, right? When I think about the qualities that make a great leader, one of the key things I think of is trust. Yeah. Right? Are you empowering your team? Are you trusting your team? I tell my team to go ahead and make the decision, even if it's different from the decision that I would make. You've got my full backing. Make the decision, run with it. We'll talk about how it happened. That psychological safety to feel comfortable making mistakes, I think for marketers in particular, it's so important. I like to phrase it this way: fear of failure is a path to mediocrity. So it's important as a marketing leader to create a culture and an environment where your team members feel comfortable, confident to make those daring decisions, those crazy leaps to try things that they wouldn't otherwise try, because otherwise you're just going to get boring results. If you want to find the real breakthrough campaigns, you've got to fail, and you've got to be comfortable with that failure and analyze that failure and learn from it so you don't repeat it. But that all comes from a leadership mentality of creating that psychological safety where our team members feel comfortable, going for it, really, really trying.
It's part of the company culture, and that's the kind of company you want to work for,
Absolutely.
Drew, I appreciate your time. Is there anything, give us the secret sauce, what's coming up for Gubagoo that will get you in trouble for talking about on this podcast? That's what I want to hear. What is going on that you're not allowed to talk about? So talk about it.
Oh gosh.
If you're going to get in trouble, it might as well be on this podcast.
Okay. So Ryan, if you're listening, just stop the podcast right now.
Yeah, turn it off.
This is the end. Go skip forward to the end.
It's over, right? Yeah, we'll play the music. It's over. See you.
The big thing that jumps to my mind that I'm excited about as a marketer, and I know that that's the bulk of your audience, Matt, is the expansion of what we're doing on the live play front into customizable sequences. So being able to build your own customized sequence, not just beyond the greeter, into if-then statements and so forth. We're doing a lot of work behind the scenes to really bulk up on that front. So I think that's super exciting. There's so many opportunities. We see conversational marketing just kicking it in the rest of the world, industry beyond automotive, and with the drifts and intercoms of the world, and it's time for us to be there because the benefits are huge. So So that's a big thing. And of course, our virtual retailing tool is with our partnership with Asbury. So Asbury's new Click Lane is powered by Gubagoo, and the same technology that they use for Click Lane that they expect will bring $5 billion in additional revenue in the next 5 years. That same technology is available to dealers nationwide. So wow. Asbury is kicking us hard to we've had to level up and level up again to meet their needs, and it's only making the product better. So
does Gubagoo get involved at all outside of automotive, or is it all strictly automotive vertical?
We are completely focused on automotive.
I like that. Yeah. Own your area, find your niche, be the best at it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Do that one thing really, really well. And for us, that's about connection, building trust, taking those digital experiences that can be cold or impersonal and bringing the warmth of your team, of humans, of people, to people on the other side. It's people that are the customers, not web traffic or your click-through rates or so forth. These are real people. So let's connect with those people and help them buy the cars that we know they'll love.
Drew Delaware, he's the head of marketing at Gubagoo. I appreciate your time. This was fun. And let's do it again. Why not?
This was great. I can't, wasn't that 5 minutes? Are we done already?
No, it was 46 minutes, but it seems like it was 5 minutes. It goes fast.
Thanks for a great chat. It was real fun being here with you today.
You got it, Drew. Thanks very much. Have a good one. I got to tell you, I'm very upset that I've been pronouncing the name wrong for the last 6 years. How is that even possible? I'm pretty sure I've corrected clients and said it's Gubagoo. I'm pretty sure that a client that has hired my agency to handle their advertising has said Gubagoo, and I said, no, it's Gubagoo. Just spouting lies to my clients. But I'm glad we got that cleared up. But all kinds of good information there from Drew. Thanks for making time. I appreciate it. Listen, we've switched from bi-weekly-ish to weekly-ish. There's so much great stuff to talk about. So many great people in the automotive industry that, we've been putting them out every week here on Mostly Automotive Marketing with Matt Wilson. So thanks for listening and checking out the podcast every week. I'm supposed to say, like and follow and subscribe and smash the like button and hit download or whatever the call to actions are you're supposed to use in social media. I put them on the screen for those of you watching because I always forget to say them. But, find us, follow us. We're all over the internet. And thanks for listening to another episode of Mostly Automotive Marketing with Matt Wilson. We'll talk soon.
Mostly Automotive Marketing with Matt Wilson is brought to you by... Wait, this guy has sponsors? Oh, never mind. This sheet of paper's blank. No sponsors. That makes more sense. For updates, info, future episodes, and more, follow on Twitter, subscribe on YouTube, like on Facebook, and connect on Frackle. You guys made that last one up. That's not even a thing, Frackle. Come on.